and a group support component. And they came for 4 hours once a week. And then we tried to coach them through the rest of the week. And it was a 12-week program. And at the end of the program, the first one, the data showed statistically significant decrease in many negative parameters, but one big one was blood pressure. So it decreased the equivalent of like 43%, which was huge. And that was 12 weeks, which is like nothing. And we were only seeing them once a week. They were doing everything else on their own as best they could. So the really cool thing is that people were, these are veterans, they're not stereotypical, but some of them are, where they're, they live a certain way, there's certain socioeconomic status, but they loved it. They loved all the components. They loved the nutrition, cooking, and the group support. And also part of the group would be a lecture on wellness, nutrition, all the things that we were kind of doing. And then they would also share their experiences. So we did a second cohort, which was also really successful. And that's when I actually left the VA and worked exclusively. I had just had a baby, so I started working per diem only at San Francisco General, where I do hand therapy now. But I've been in touch with the physician who's done it, and they're still doing this. He actually relocated to Portland, Vancouver area, but still kind of works at the VA also. So his background actually was in digital health and software, and then he went to medical school. So he kind of combines everything. So that was kind of what I did we called that the wellness and rehab program. And so from there, I went to San Francisco General, and I also started a program, a holistic nutrition program. And the holistic aspect is that it looks at not just food and nutrients, but also kind of all the other aspects that are associated with food, where your food comes from, the environmental impact, the community impact. So all of those things is like the holistic part. But I did that nutrition program for about a year and a half. And then like I said, we moved to Bend. And so I was kind of looking for a way to combine my love of hand therapy and nutrition and wellness. And I also did a program through the American Association, the Occupational Therapy Association, which is called Lifestyle Redesign. And that is a specific occupational therapy intervention that kind of encompasses what the wellness and rehab program did, except it's a little bit more potentially comprehensive in that you kind of can bring in more things. And that kind of has brought all the things together, and that's what I do now in combination with hand therapy. So what lifestyle redesign is looking at how, I'm sorry, did you say something? I thought I was talking, did you ask something, Keith?
No. We got a little feedback from somebody there, so.
Okay. So lifestyle redesign it started from a study that was done at USC, the University of Southern California, in the 1990s. That was called the Wellness and Rehab Program. Not the Wellness and Rehab, excuse me. That was the other one, called the Well Elderly Study. And that was looking at how you could implement lifestyle modifications to prevent or at least mitigate typically age-associated decline. So they created this, they did this study, and they showed that this occupational therapy intervention effectively decreased typical age-associated decline, such as mental decline, decrease in life satisfaction, decrease in quality of life, decrease in physical functioning. So that program, they did a second well elderly study that was similar. They were both like 6 to 9 months, and it demonstrated the same thing. And then that intervention has since been applied to all these other, not just well elderly, but all these other diseases such as diabetes, fibromyalgia, stroke. And the idea behind it is when you are typically aging or you've had a life event such as a stroke, how can you redefine or change the roles, routines, everything that goes into creating life satisfaction? Because so much changes after. So how do you create daily routine made up of the meaningful roles in your life that are going to give you a satisfying life. And so it's when you kind of sounds esoteric, but you break it down into tangible pieces. And some of the components overlap with what I did in wellness and rehab, is that you're looking at stress and inflammation, excuse me, nutrition, which also can look at dining and cooking, and exercise and group support, which is a social component. But then you can also bring in other relationships, other roles in your life that have changed post-injury, post-stroke. And how do you, if needed, redefine them, redefine your role, and identify, to begin with, what are the meaningful activities that are associated with that role? And how do you combine those activities to create daily routines that balance a work component, a leisure component, and a rest component? So all of that, you structure it out into, well, you first determine what out of all those possible subjects are meaningful to an individual at that particular time in their life, which is going to be different 1 week post-stroke than it is going to be obviously 3 years post-stroke. And then you determine what you want to work on, and it usually break it down into kind of monthly chunks where you spend that month working on a component. So it's typically a several month program. You wouldn't meet with someone, perhaps you'd meet with them once a week initially, and then it kind of separates out into perhaps once a month. That's how you kind of address developing, excuse me, something got caught in my throat.
Hopefully you're okay.
Yeah, it's like a tickle that won't go away. But that's how you develop a new routine based on the roles that are important to you. And based on that, that's kind of when you break down, look at what our lives are. There are a series of activities that we organize into a daily routine that bring us meaning and hopefully satisfaction. And of course, that can all break down when something changes. So you have to find a way to build that back up. And it's probably going to be built up differently than it was prior to an injury or a significant life event.
And Maura, can you see the question that Joyce posted?
Oh, sorry.
Because I think you just kind of answered it, frankly. But I want you to see that specifically too, please.
So do you mean specific to the wellness and rehab program?
Yes, because I was in a clinical study for my hand and in Kentucky. And,
I'm sorry, can you start that one more time? I didn't hear the beginning.
A clinical study in Kentucky for my hand. And when it was all done, I felt better. I felt on top of the world. And I went home and all dissolved because how many people do you think will do those wellness procedures ongoing?
Yeah,
ongoing. That's a good question. And I think part of that is making sure that you're identifying meaningful roles and developing meaningful routines to an individual, and then creating that daily structure. So it's not a series of ideas, but it's really something that you can implement. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, it's kind of like, we all go to the doctors, right? And they tell you do this or do that, and then off you go, and they don't see you for so long, or and so I can see what you're saying, Maura, where somebody is interjected into what you're doing, they would have more success. But if it was typed out or written out, and there was a way to coach them through that, or have somebody that they were accountable to, I could see that really paying off. Would that be correct?
That's definitely correct. So they also liken it, one of the ways that they think of lifestyle redesign and occupational therapy is it's kind of a doing therapy versus psychology might be a talking therapy. So you're doing these activities and you're with the individual and you're finding ways to accomplish them, and then creating a routine, a daily schedule, a daily routine that can then be replicated and can be sustaining.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. Very good. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So that's kind of what now I do. I created, when I came to Bend, I decided to, like I said, I continued to work in hand therapy, but I wanted to do kind of more of those wellness lifestyle redesign intervention as well. So I created my own company here called M2 Wellness Occupational Therapy, which is a platform. It's either telehealth or it's home-based outpatient occupational therapy, which you might have heard of home health before, home health occupational therapy. That's under, well, insurance-wise, that's under Medicare Part A, and that's, you are eligible for that after you're discharged from the hospital. But there's also outpatient, which is as if you were going to a clinic, but it's performed in the home, which would be under like Medicare Part B or private insurance. And so that's what M2 Wellness does, is it's either occupational therapy on an outpatient basis, but provided in the person's home or on a telehealth platform.
Wow. That's very
And
good
it's
to know.
best is really a combination of the two, because even though telehealth is the future for sure,
Yeah.
and it's super convenient and there's lots of things you can do, there's, if possible, there's nothing that beats that in-person interaction and hands-on work that you can do with someone, as well as there's nothing that compares to seeing how someone functions in their own home. Because I mean, with hand therapy, with spinal cord injury, everything we've ever done, you always, you can do so much in the clinic, but our clinics are set up for success. They're set up to challenge you in a particular way and to get certain results and then to build on those results. But we can never replicate a person's home environment. They're so varied and that's not conducive to what we do in a clinic. In spinal cord injury, we actually had what we called an ADL apartment, where before someone discharged, we had that person, and if they had a significant other, stay in the apartment for a weekend. And we prepared them as much as we could. Of course, it wasn't their own home, but we tried to simulate what it was going to be like when they went home. And so then after they had all the resources that they needed, if something went wrong, they were on our unit. But then afterwards, we could kind of address anything that came up that was as real life as we could get. And we would do home visits, but it's still, nothing replicates seeing someone function in their own home and trying to really address it in situ.
Yeah. So the business that you have now, the M2, right? M2.
It's called M2 Wellness Occupational Therapy.
Maura Murphy, is that what M2 is?
Everyone who was doing the marketing wanted to do M squared. I was like, I don't like that.
Anyway, so that's what you're doing now. And
That's
so,
what I do with Bend, yeah.
okay. And so are you making house visits as well?
I've just started that. So that's what I will be doing, yes.
Yeah.
And so I'm in network. I'm a participating provider with Medicare. And then I am cash basis for private insurance that I can submit bills to super bills that can be reimbursed. But the only insurance company I'm a provider with is Medicare.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, how far would you travel to do those kinds of things?
So right now I'm kind of thinking it's a 20-25 mile radius.
Yeah. Joyce, I don't know why you haven't moved here yet.
Where do you live, Joyce?
Yeah, but no, I'm not thinking of it because I have a son here.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Where do you live?
In Portland, and my son is 4 minutes away, and the other son lives in Hood River.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we're all here. We're all there.
That's nice.
Here.
I just given Joyce.
Wonderful things about Bend. Wonderful things.
I'm just giving Joyce a hard time.
I know.
She enjoys it, I can tell. I'm sorry, do you have a question?
Lonnie,
There you are.
Okay, now I'm unmuted. So when you do home health,
Hmm,
Hang on. Gosh darn it. What is going on? Today has been a,
really?
Now she's frozen.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Can you say it again? You froze up on
Oh.
that.
Yeah, I noticed I froze up. So my question is, since you do home health visits under Medicare and private pay, do you do hand therapy in those?
So hand
Could you-
therapy and wellness. Uh-huh.
Maybe give us a little rundown of what you do with hand therapy. 'Cause
Well,
I know that
therapy
might
is
be
my-
interesting
Yeah,
to Greg and some of our other members who are not here today.
for sure. So hand therapy is like my first love. I love hand therapy. So that's, I mean, I knew before I went into school, that's what I was going to do. And so hand therapy I've worked in, hand therapy is the rehabilitation of the hand and upper extremity. So it starts really, if you're qualified, it starts at the neck and it's the entire upper quarter. And I'm a certified hand therapist, which is hand therapy is a specific area of occupational therapy. There are a few areas that you can do specialties in, and probably the best well known is hand therapy. So a certified hand therapist has been, their requirements are you've been a practicing occupational therapist. I think now it's 3 years. I think it used to be 5 years. It's a minimum of 5,000 hours working in direct hand therapy.
wow.
And then you pass pretty rigorous 4-hour exam. And so those are the qualifications that you need. And then of course you recertify every 5 years. So I'm a certified hand therapist, and I've worked in outpatient for just outpatient private clinics. I've also worked, I did a specialty clinic at the VA for spinal cord patients, for upper extremity spinal cord, as well as regular outpatient. And then I work in outpatient now at San Francisco General Hospital. So we definitely see a lot of trauma. We see, at San Francisco General, we see gunshot wounds, we see lacerations where a tendon might have been cut, a nerve might have been cut. We see lots of fractures. We see probably all of hand therapy. The most common thing is some type of repetitive strain injury that you would get from typically doing the same activity over and over, which is usually some inflammatory process, either tendonitis or something like that. We do also see other nerve dysfunction, which stroke is a nerve dysfunction. I mean, your muscles aren't working because your nerves aren't getting the message. And that's coming from your central nervous system, but we also see peripheral nerve injuries. So we see kind of everything. And
So can I interrupt you? This is Greg Cast. I also happen to be a native San Franciscan, and you gave a fair representation of the weather, so I won't quarrel with you. But what if I've had surgery on both hands, hamate bone fracture in one hand and carpal tunnel in the other.
Yep.
And I present myself with a prescription for therapy post-surgery to rebound therapy, and I get assigned to a hand therapist, and they know what to do.
yes,
And I just do it.
yes.
My wife, on the other hand, has had a serious stroke, and she doesn't have much use of any of her left side, especially her left arm and hand.
Mm-hmm.
And if she presented herself to you, would you have a tough time deciding whether you could help her, or would you just plunge right in and find out what was possible with her?
I would do the latter. Because how far post-stroke is she?
Years. 4 years.
Okay, does she have, do you mind if I ask some more questions?
Sure.
Does she have any contractures? Is she fixed
What is
in
a contracture?
So that's where your joint is fixed position. For example, maybe your elbow's in a fixed flexion position.
No,
or your
no,
hands.
they're not fixed, but they don't move very well,
Okay.
very
So
easily.
there's been evidence even several years post-stroke that gains can be made.
Yeah.
What it used to be for stroke is they thought, well, one intervention was called constraint use therapy. And the premise behind it was constant repetitive motion. And this was like wearing a constraint on the unaffected hand. So your good hand, you were wearing a constraint in order to force your affected hand, the one that had been injured, to do something, you would wear a constraint like 9 waking hours a day. And the idea was that by forcing your brain to send messages to the affected side, you were creating new pathways. And the underlying premise still remains. But what they found is that it's not necessary to get results by doing that. And in fact, doing rote movement, which is what they would also do, just do a motion, that's ineffective at creating neurological change. So probably now everyone knows that we realize that our brain, so that if you have a stroke and there's certain area of your brain is damaged, if it's just damaged and then there's still, cells that are viable there, sometimes it's still possible to find a pathway out of that damaged area down to nerve impulses down to the affected limb and create movement again. Sometimes if that area has been damaged to the point where those cells are no longer viable, it's still possible to find an alternate route, thinking like on a highway, a way around that damage and down to the affected limb. The idea behind it is actually, some people might know, when like little kids, when they're babies, everything they do, they make a synaptic connection for. And then at a certain age, so I mean, that's why kids learn things so fast. At a certain age, this concept called synaptic pruning, where you start cutting off all those things that you don't really need in order to focus on things that you do use regularly, occurs. But those connections still exist, even though we don't use them. And so it's kind of going back and trying to find a connection again that goes down. So it exists, but it's like just turned off. And that happens, you see, post-injury when there's disuse. It's going to be difficult for someone to activate a muscle again to create a pattern of motion. So going back to what I would do is the most effective way nowadays, it's been determined, this like most recent research, is tasks that needs to be repetition, but it could be, sometimes it's been found, a couple, 2-3 hours a day is effective. Some studies show less than that, but it has to be a meaningful task. You have to be engaged in it. Meaningful means that your brain is occupied in it. It can't be a rote task. It has to be meaningful to the person. And it also, something that's interesting to me is a lot of times in hand therapy, we focus so much on quality of motion. We're telling patients, I don't want any flexion here. I want you to be extending here. And we're focused so like minutely on that. And that actually might be less effective, or not criticism, but commenting for a person who's had a stroke, as rather than looking at the whole picture and looking at the quantity of motion. So that to me is so counterintuitive, because I'm always looking at quality of motion. So there's different ways to approach kind of how you'd intervene with someone who had, has chronic stroke deficits. But what I would first do is look at an interview. What is meaningful to you? What tasks do you want to get back to doing? What motion do we have? Do we need to overcome any tightness? Those are things that can be done easily. Not easily, but you can do that initially. And then what motions do we need? What compensatory motions exist right now that are helpful, and which ones are maladaptive? They're actually counter against what we're trying to achieve. And so those are kind of how you break it down, and try to create some type of more effective functional motion, functional patterns of motion. Does that make sense? Kind of going all over the place with that one.
Yes, it does. My wife and I have been on a search for this very solution that you're describing. We've tried acupuncture. We've had various occupational therapy solutions attempted, and none of them have been more than just minimally effective.
Mm-hmm.
We've had genicular nerve block therapy that
so now why did you have
it showed great promise, but it didn't work. And after 4 years, we're worried that we're running out of options.
Yeah. Well, research is always changing. And the good thing is that they've shown that years post-stroke, changes still can be made. I mean, I think the basis of that is our bodies, our brains are so plastic. They're so moldable for the better or worse, so we're always changing, and we're changing depending on how we use our bodies and how we engage with using our bodies, how we engage our mind, our vision, all the other sensory components that go into it that provide feedback, but create a stronger loop of kind of a pattern that we're tapping back into.
I totally agree with you, Maura, on that. We can all continue to grow, but like you said, it's do we believe we can do it? And are we willing to do the work or engage, in it and do the work that it takes? And that's a tough thing, for some, especially after so many years, and yeah. So, but
I think
I
it's
agree.
cool, though, is that still, to me, it's so exciting how much control you have over what your body does, what it's capable, how it heals, and just what you can do long-term to improve your health and improve your quality of life. You really, just with education, everyone has so much control over that. And that's it's so powerful when you feel that. And when you can teach someone else that and they can grab a hold of it and use it, it's like the most fulfilling thing.
Yeah, there's so many changes, the changes, we've all seen the thing where, something starts up and then boom, right? And I feel like we're just
Oh, yeah.
up that path. And it's crazy. All the things that have happened in the last, 10 years for sure. But probably more the last 5 years, it's really starting to happen out there.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lanae.
Oh, I just wanted to add a comment. Maura, I am so excited that we have you in our community because we've had a very limited supply of hand therapists.
Really?
As you know. Oh my gosh, yes.
I see them. I've been told, but I haven't practiced here. And I would think this is like a great place to practice. There's just an opportunity.
Yeah, well, we have a shortage of neuro hand trained therapists.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think your message is so important because we deal with so many people that really have given up on their hands and their arm. And so I would love, to have you write an article that we can post on our SAO website. But I think this is very encouraging. Don't you, Greg?
I do.
Good. That's really nice to hear.
Well,
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
Well, I went to a therapist one time and she told me, she didn't elaborate, and I should have asked her more questions, but I didn't. She said she had a patient that after 10 years, he did not give up working with his hand over and over and over. Took him 10 years, and one day his hand was back to normal.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And I said, what? That's what I said. Oh, you're gonna be kidding me. And she said it took him 10 years, but one day he woke up and of course she didn't say it like that, but she said one day his hand was back to normal. And I was like, so she said, don't ever give up because you just don't know when your 10 years is going to come around. It could be 2 years, it could be 5 years, it could be 6 years. So don't give up. And I've worked and worked and worked on my hand. I still have, I call it paralysis, but I'm constantly told it's not paralysis, it's spasticity. But I still have some in my hand. But fortunately, from the time I had my stroke to now, I can use my hand. I can feed myself. I can pick up items. I can do my hair. I can brush my teeth. So don't ever give up. That's the moral of the whole story is don't ever give up. Keep trying no matter what. And you need encouragement because you do want to give up. You get to a point where you just say, forget it, I'm done. And you need somebody, a husband or a friend or your wife encouraging, don't give up because you never know what's going to happen down the road.
Very true.
Very good, Bunny. Thank you so much. That was awesome.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool. Anybody?
I do want to mention one thing.
Sorry.
I was going to a chiropractor here this few months ago, and he was using what they call a vibrator, which is called a rapid release on me. And I couldn't believe how much it made me feel better. And I said, I got to get me one of these. And he said, well, I can get you one. And I said, okay, how much are we talking about? He said, about $1,100. I said, wow. So I talked to my husband about it, and he told me, my husband's very supportive. He said, if you think it's going to help you, I'm all for it. Go ahead and get it. So the doctor ordered it for me, and I use it, and it's really strange. I use it on my hand, my neck, my arm, my everything. And every morning when I use it on my hand feels almost completely normal. I can move it back and forth, and I don't have this spasticity in it. I'm truly amazed. But after a while, it comes back. And I told my doctor, my primary doctor, about it, and he was going to get one for his wife. She's never had a stroke. She wanted something for her back. But if you ever have I'm totally sold on this thing. It's wonderful. It really has helped. It's not a cure-all, but it has really, really helped me. And if anybody ever wants any information on it, and the people that sell them are absolutely fantastic to deal with.
That's good to hear.
Oh, yeah, I would like information. So maybe Keith can distribute it to anybody.
I bought mine through my chiropractor, because the way it worked out was, if I went through him, I got a $50 rebate, and he got a $50 rebate. But you can always just order it. You don't have to have a referral from your doctor. It's just like buying anything. And every once in a while, I talk to the people that sell them, and they're really into helping customer service. So I've been
What's the
very
company
happy.
name?
It's the item is called Rapid Release, and you can Google it and look it up. And maybe Googling it, you can get there. My doctor ordered it for me, and what I do is, when I need to talk to them, I text them, and they answer me right away.
It's rapid
Wow.
relief.
Release. Yeah, rapid release. My husband uses it on my back. He uses it on my arm. He uses it on my leg. I have paralysis in my right leg and my calf, in the back of my leg. It is like walking around with a board tied to my leg. It's so stiff. And I've had problems with my toes and curling, and I've been working on that. I've figured out something to do with my toes that will help me uncurl them so I can walk normally. And if anybody ever has that problem, I'm more than happy to give you the information that I figured out and has worked for me. It's not a cure-all. I still have problems with my toes, but like everything else, I don't give up. My husband does exercise on my toes every morning and on my leg. And my anniversary is May 18th. It'll be 3 years for me that I've had my stroke.
Very good.
Good information. Wow.
Yeah.
We're
Thank you.
definitely curious about the, so what happens for Michelle, she gets what they call tone. So her big toe pulls and starts to cramp, and kind of once it starts, then, that day it's going to happen a bunch of times. And so if you have ideas for help with that, we would love that.
I have a little brochure. No, it's not a brochure. It's a booklet. Let me show you. I don't know where find this information out. I study this stuff all the time. So after a while, it becomes a blur. If you have a piece of paper and a pen, you can write this down.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's called Pedflix, PEDIFIX, and you can call them and ask for a free booklet, and they will send it to you. This thing is so full of information of what you can use on your toes. The first time I ordered from them, I spent $150. And I still have stuff in there in my closet that I haven't used on my foot yet. But for the toes, there's you name it. And the phone number to get a free booklet is 1-800-733-4349. And what I found on my toes, did you guys get it?
No, repeat that for me, please.
1-800 733-4349.
Thank you.
And it's a very thick book. There's 31 pages in it, and it's all about your feet, the bottom of your feet, the tops of your feet. And I ordered these things that I put between my toes. They're called toe spreader. And I wear them every day inside my shoe. It keeps my toes from curling, and it helps my toes. It helps them from straighten them.
Bunny,
Now, when I went to the doctor, yes,
are your feet flat?
they are now, because I was walking almost on the bottom of the cushion underneath my toes. I could not put the back of my foot flat on the ground.
Yeah.
Now I can.
Okay.
And I noticed if you wear shoes that are really good shoes that are nice, thick, and solid, and wear this toe spreader in with a pair of socks, thin socks in your shoe, you walk probably 80% better than you ever walked before, since your stroke.
Yeah.
These toe spreaders, the doctor wanted to go in and do surgery on my feet, on my toes. And I got some advice not to do that, and I won't get into it, but I decided not to. I went with this route, and it has helped me so much. And these items in this book are so cheap. They work with you. They're a good company to work with. They'll let you return stuff if you, I don't know about if you've used it, but they'll let you return stuff if you don't want it. When you get it, you've decided it's not going to help you. They're just great. They're great.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Bunny. That was good information. We really appreciate that very much. It's funny that
over $50.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I get cramps in my feet all the time. I never thought it was due to stroke, but anyway, that's interesting.
It's probably neuropathy, I'm guessing.
So Maura, anybody else got any more questions for Maura, or, is there any other stuff you want to share with us?
I don't know that I can think of anything that would be super interesting to share at this point, but I'm happy if anyone else has any questions.
Are you okay if we share, do you have like a phone that you use for business or anything?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I did share my email. Someone asked for that. And then my phone number is 541-241-7337.
And if it's okay with you, what I'll do is I usually send out these recordings. I started the recording just a hair late, but anyway, I send this recording out to all of the stroke survivors. There's many more of them, but they can't all come. And so I'll send your information out if that's okay.
And you're welcome to share the email address. They can also contact me through there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Another, just an interjection. Sometimes tone responds to cold, decreases with cold. So someone mentioned they would have tone that created extension in the toe. And you can try heat or cold. This is for any type of tone that's, a hyperactive, your reflexes are hyperactive basically. And you can put cold on it, on the muscle belly itself. And that can sometimes decrease the tone. So you can try that. That's, some people find decrease when it's more of a painful condition that might respond more to heat, always applied safely, not to burn yourself. And the same thing with cold, because ice directly on your skin can burn you the exact same way. But, and just pure hypertonicity sometimes responds really well to cold. You put it on for 10 minutes, but you should see results if it's going to produce results.
Awesome. That's great stuff.
Yeah, it's an easy fix if sometimes when it works. It's surprising. Heat and cold is like they're two modalities we use most effectively in everything. Most simple things. We have all these fancy tools, and honestly, we're getting further and further away from using a lot of that stuff because you can't do it at home. It's, and typically the application of it needs to be done with to be clinically effective, needs to be done with frequency and for duration beyond what a person typically goes to a clinic for. And so it doesn't, sometimes it's just not even as effective.
Yeah. Awesome. Michelle, you are making me dizzy. I'm just giving you the business. I'm teasing you guys.
We're sorry, we're struggling there for a minute. Off, on, upside down, inside out. The phone was ringing, the microwave was,
Yeah,
it was
I-
wild. We're back
I'm
now.
just teasing you guys. I like to have fun sometimes. You guys may know that about me. I don't know. Maura, gosh, that's awesome stuff. And what really hit me was, you have really educated yourself and you've stayed up on top of it, where a lot of people probably they get educated and then they just do their stuff, but you are staying on top of it. And I just want you to know that means a lot. And we appreciate you so much for coming on here.
Thank you. Well, I really do. I love learning everything that comes out. It's just so fascinating. And then I work at San Francisco General. I work with a group of hand therapists that are that was the hardest thing about leaving San Francisco is I love them. They're the greatest people and they're so passionate about what they do. And we love learning new stuff. We love teaching each other new stuff when we find out about it. So I really get to tap into that, which is awesome too.
Yeah. Well, Bend is growing like crazy. The Central Oregon is growing like crazy, as I'm sure you've seen.
Yeah, even in the time I've been here.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Lonnie, or does any of you guys know what is the population of Bend now?
About 100,000.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It would surprise me if it wasn't even a little higher than that. But man, it's just been
Getting my daughter into preschool was San Francisco, you have to put them on the wait list like when you're pregnant. And that's late. And here I was I found a preschool pretty easily, but apparently that was just luck because people are finding out now or they can't get their kids into preschool.
Wow.
It's just this huge boom is overwhelming what the available resources.
Yeah. Well, does anybody else, I've got a couple more things I want to talk about. Does anybody have any other questions for Maura?
Nope. Well, you're always welcome to contact me anytime. I'm happy
Do we
to-
need a referral to see you, Maura? Do we need a referral?
In Oregon, you don't need a referral to see an occupational therapist. There's direct access. However, for some insurance companies to be reimbursed, you do need a doctor's referral, Medicare included.
Okay, Medicare. Thank you.
Good to know. All right.
Thanks,
Well,
Alicia.
you can stay on if you want, Maura, or not. We got.
I would love to. I'm going to go grab my little monkey from where she's been corralled and release someone. But it was very nice to talk to you all.
Great seeing you. Thank you so much.
Be part of this again. All right. Take care.
Okay. So everybody, just wanted to reiterate some stuff. June 10th is the day that we established for a barbecue for stroke survivors and their families. I never have heard from anybody. Of course, I'll take some of the blame because I should have sent an email out to everybody. But if anybody has a problem with that or wants to change it, we're getting close. But even at that, put it on your calendar if you guys can. June 10th, we're going to have a barbecue for stroke survivors and your families, 4 to 6. The other thing is I wanted to get some feedback from everybody where. We were thinking about the Phoenix restaurant or Pine Nursery Park, maybe. So if anybody thinks of, you have something you want to say on that, please let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to just move forward, with something and we'll get her done.
I do have opinions. Sorry, I do. This is Louise. And we would love it to be at the same time that we do this because we already scheduled this. So if you're switching it to June 10th, that's a Thursday, which would be difficult for us. And but we would love to participate. And I think outside's better than the Phoenix, even though we love the Phoenix. It would be fun to be outside.
I'm not sure why we went with June 10th. I'll be honest. Let me look at something real fast. I apologize. And good point. Love that point. Let me just bear with me for a quick second.
Sure.
I don't know why we did that. Well, okay, let me do some work on that. So would everybody be okay with like June 8th from, 3 to 5 or something like that? So same time and all that?
Yeah, that'd be better.
I like the idea of keeping it about the same time
Yeah, that
as our support group. And I like the idea of outside. By June, it's not really warm, but we're all used to wearing a coat.
yeah.
That's true.
I don't know why we did that. I apologize for that, and it does make sense to be there. So thank
No
you.
worries.
Thank you, Louise, for saying that, and let me work on that. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks.
Next meeting is May 11th. Listen, if you guys can, please reach out to some others. Give them a little kick in the pants. We're having Deborah and Steve Meyerson, who wrote the book Identity Theft.
Oh, fabulous program. Fabulous.
Yeah, on May 11th. They also have a nonprofit called Stroke Onward. You can look that up if you want. They're really cool people. I really would like to have a good showing, frankly, for that. And, I guess, for lack of a better thing to say, I would really like to have as many people. So I'm going to work hard on it, and I would like some help from everybody if you could. Let's get some folks to this next meeting. Any good of the order, so to speak? Anybody have anything?
No, one thing I think, Keith, is I love it when we can go around and catch up with everybody.
Yeah.
So, I love the speaker. I thought Maura was great, but I want to hear what everybody else has got on their mind.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we call, so May 11th, so 14 days, the 25th. Let's make the 25th an free for all, kind of, so to speak. And let's let everybody get a chance to visit and talk, and we'll keep it organized, but let's do that. That's a great idea. Men's group is coming up. Greg, are you still on here?
I'm still here.
You would definitely be welcome to join us on that. We're looking at, it's probably going to be May. It depends on what happens with COVID, frankly. But I'll keep you in the loop on that as well. And spouses or anybody that wants to join us are welcome. So, and I guess that's it. I want to say thanks to everybody. Anybody else have anything?
No, Joyce, don't forget to send me your information.
Yeah, and Keith, you're going to get Moira's email out to us?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
I did.
And if it's okay, Greg, do you see the post from SAO, right? The one like I sent out for the stroke survivor meeting?
I get it, yes.
Well, either way, I'll make sure you get it either personally from me or from there, but I will put it on there too.
I think that's
Okay.
really a great service for our community.
Yeah.
Lonnie.
Yes.
Yes, hi, it's Louise. Michelle was asking me earlier today, whatever happened in regards to, remember that guy that had the machine and we all came and did some testing and then some therapy and then some post-testing. And he was going to see if he could get it as part of the outpatient therapy at St. Charles. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Oh, I absolutely do. Is Michelle a patient there?
Yes.
Oh, does she do PT there or what?
Yeah, she does PT every Thursday there at St. Charles outpatient.
Oh, that's great. And who does she see there?
I want to say Rachel.
Okay, so all you need to do is, in fact, I'll be there tomorrow. let me let Rachel know that you'd like to try the Ames device.
Ames, that could not think of it. Thank you. Thanks,
Yeah,
Lenny.
I will mention that. And Michelle, are you on, you have Medicare or some form of insurance?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'll mention it to Raquel tomorrow.
Thank you.
Hey,
You're
one
very
last-
welcome.
One last thing too, Alicia typed in 2019, men population was over 100,000 men in 2019.
Yeah.
And she's
Thanks,
used,
Alicia.
she's used those Pedifix gel dancer pads for years and she loves them too. So it's a 4M product, she said. All
Alicia's
right.
a fountain of information.
I know it. I know you're on here
Well,
listening.
you
to us,
drive around
Alicia.
for an hour in Bend and you see all the new houses going up. We're probably closer to 110,000 would be my guess.
I think you're probably about right, Greg.
Yeah.
We should know the results of the census any day.
Yeah.
All
Oh,
right. Well, thank you guys, everybody.
thank
Have a
you.
fantastic
you.
week.
Good to see you all.
You too.
We'll see you guys soon. Next time I might start with some music or something just to get everybody kicked up.
Little dance action.
All right. See you soon.
Hey.
Hi.
Bye-bye. I wanted to save that chat there.